Another episode of Dangerous Ideas. My name is Shawn Kanungo. I'm an innovation strategist. What we do is we break down concepts and frameworks that will change your life. Oh, wow. Hey everyone, this is another episode of Dangerous Ideas. In this podcast, what we do is we break down concepts and frameworks that will change your life, change your business, your career, but most importantly, change your life. I am super excited to be back on here. It's been a minute, and I thought I would just create a really short episode, what I would define as the new world order. The new world order is coming. It's here, and I'll break down why that is. Now, before I get into that, I did make a little announcement yesterday on some of my social feeds. If you don't have me on social media, I'm everywhere. But I announced a mini pop-up tour. We're calling it The Boldest. It's a pop-up tour where I go to select cities in Canada: Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, and New York. It's not like I need to go to more cities, okay? I'm already in like 80 cities, every single year. And, a lot of people ask me why I'm doing the Boldest tour. And I thought I would just break down from the horse's mouth why I am doing this tour. I think first is I wanted to do something where I would be able to connect with people that follow my content, whether it's on social media or through my keynotes. I wanted a spot where I could actually shoot long form content that aligns with like what I love talking about, which is around culture, technology, media, trends, things that are happening in society and the culture right now. And of course, I'm able to do that, within my keynotes, but I wanted another avenue where I could do that on my own. I also wanted to be able to build more trust and affinity with people that follow my content, not only in person, but also online. I think it's a great way of testing new material. It's a great way of seeing what people are thinking about, what they're wanting to hear. And it's a beautiful opportunity to create an amazing experience, an intimate, amazing, interactive experience with people in these select cities. And one of the things that I've realized over the last number of years is I really love like putting together these experiences, whether it's doing the book tour or the bold ones, the special and the launch party. Like, I love putting together really intimate, curated, incredible, beautiful experience for people. And I just believe that is such a great way of building a brand. And I love connecting with people. And so it's called the Boldest Tour. In order to join, or you have to apply. So the reason why you have to apply is that there are limited spots, and we want to put together a group of people that is, they come from different backgrounds. They come from different experiences. And so the applications are live. If you go to ShawnKanungo.com/theboldest, you can apply there. And if you follow this podcast, you're probably an amazing candidate for those pop-up tours, because really the tour is a different avenue than this, but there's a lot of similar content. And so I'm excited to be there. And by the way, there's some really neat things that are happening. Number one is that we're going to be taking everyone to a secret location in downtown Vancouver, Toronto, Calgary, New York. You're going to be transported there and back. You are going to get an opportunity to meet with other really cool people. I'm going to be delivering a 60-minute unique piece that I've never done before. It's going to be like net new content. And ultimately, it's going to be an opportunity to connect with me. There's going to be a book signing. There'll be a Q&A. So I think it's going to be incredible. And so you go apply at ShawnKanungo.com the boldest. And I'm just really excited to do it. It's the first time that I've ever done it. It might be a really great experiment or a really great failure. I have no idea. But the good thing is that I do have a number of reps creating amazing experiences and putting these things together. And the fact that it's small, we're really going to take care of those people that are coming. So, super excited about that announcement. You can check it out on my socials, ShawnKanungo.com/the boldest. The boldest. So part of the reason why I want to call this podcast The New World Order is part of the reason why we started this podcast is because of dangerous ideas and the idea that, there are new concepts, new frameworks that are changing how we look at the world. And every so often I see things happening in the culture that reinforce the fact that the old empire is falling and there is a new world order. Yesterday, I just saw that Alex Cooper, who is the podcast host of Call Her Daddy, she also has a podcast network known as Unwell, just signed a $125 million deal with SiriusXM. Now, this comes off the heels of her signing a deal with Spotify for $60 million. And of course, that contract is going to be expiring, and she's going off and doing a new deal with SiriusXM for $125 million. I mean, Alex Cooper is obviously one of the GOATs for making this happen. Now, is this a good deal for Alex Cooper? I think it's a great monetary deal for her. And I think it is a great deal for Sirius. And as context, I am a Sirius subscriber. Part of the reason why I'm a Sirius subscriber, actually the only reason why I am a Sirius subscriber is because of Howard Stern. I've been listening to Howard Stern for years. And what's been interesting about my behavior with Sirius is that the only reason why I listen to Sirius is because of Howard. And Howard is not even on that often, to be honest with you. He's on once a week. And I don't get to hear him that much because he's on vacation so much. But what's been interesting about Howard's brand is that when Howard came on to SiriusXM, many people said that it was a bad move for him because at that time, Sirius didn't have that many listeners. And Howard was able to bring a whole bunch of listeners to SiriusXM. Now, it's interesting that many, many years later, SiriusXM is making the same move with Alex Cooper, bringing an entirely new audience to this platform that, to be honest with you, I would assume that 99% of Cooper's existing audience does not have SiriusXM. And so this is a massive move for Sirius when Howard Stern's contract is ending in 2025. Alex Cooper seems to be, her contract to be starting in 2025. What's going to be interesting is the ability for Call Her Daddy and the other episodes of Unwell to be distributed on other platforms, because my understanding right now is that since Call Her Daddy is on Spotify, it's similar to Joe Rogan, where only clips of the podcast go out on YouTube and other places. I would assume that's going to be the same thing for Sirius as well. In order to listen to the full podcast for Call Her Daddy, it's going to be on Sirius, and the clips will be on other places as well. I think what has hurt Howard over time is the fact that he was within a walled garden. And unfortunately, I think it made a big hit to his brand. Now, don't get me wrong, Howard Stern is still incredibly popular, but if you saw what happened with Joe Rogan and the fact that Joe Rogan really blew up because of YouTube, that really expanded his brand. And I think one of the things that I'm worried about for Alex Cooper is the fact that once she's with Sirius, a platform that 99% of her audience does not listen to, I would imagine, that this is going to limit her in some way in her brand relevance and her cultural relevance. Yes, she's going to get an incredible bag, but will this ultimately hurt her cultural relevance? Because I'm a big Howard fan. I love Howard, but let's be honest, his cultural relevance absolutely got hurt because he wasn't on where everyone else was, which was on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, and other places. And so it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. I think it's an incredible move for Sirius because not only are they going to have capital left over when Howard leaves, but this is getting a new audience. It's getting one of the most prolific, one of the most important cultural icons of today in the audio space, which is Call Her Daddy. Like arguably, it's Joe Rogan and Alex Cooper, right? So I think that's interesting. I've been really loving what Alex Cooper has been doing with Unwell and signing some really great people on that platform, like Alex Earl. She's got a show called Hot Mess. So, congratulations to her. Incredible. The new world order is here. And she's just one of those examples that I believe that is incredibly inspiring. And it got me thinking that one of the other cultural mainstays over the last number of decades, I would say since, even the 60s, has been late night television. Johnny Carson, led to, Jay Leno and David Letterman to what we have now with Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel and Seth Meyers, Stephen Colbert. And what we have seen over the last number of years because of streaming is that those individuals, Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel's, the Stephen Colbert's of the world, have become less relevant over time. Their content has become less relevant. Their viewership has decreased as well. And at the same time, you see people like Kai Cenat, iShowSpeed, these streamers actually become the new late night shows. Like I believe that Kai Cenat, Speed, DJ Academics, like these people, these streamers that are on Twitch have become the new late night show. What's been interesting is to see that Kai Cenat, he can get big guests like Ice Spice or Kevin Hart on his show, and Kevin Hart will spend, the entire day streaming with Kai Cenat. And I believe that actually drives more cultural relevance to somebody like Kevin Hart. And it's actually a different and more interesting form than Jimmy Fallon. Like Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, all these guys are incredibly produced. There's probably 1,000 people working at those shows. But what Kai Cenat is doing is really interesting. It's authentic. It's him on a camera. There's very little production. It's very genuine. It's an interactive experience with his audience. Like he's actually responding to people that are messaging in the chat. It's community building. There's so many elements that align with what's happening in the culture today with internet culture that make it the new late night show. And so is Kai Cenat more popular than Jimmy Fallon? Absolutely not. But is he more culturally relevant today? I would say that he is. And so this is the new world order. This is the new world that we're living in, where you have streamers that are going to be more culturally relevant than the late night shows of today. I mean, if you ask young people under the age of 25, if you've watched an episode of any of these late night shows, I would say that very few of them have watched it. But have you watched snippets of Speed or Kai or Aiden Ross or any of these people? They would absolutely say that they have. And, I find that really interesting. It combines with the fact that linear cable is falling and streaming platforms like YouTube are rising. I just saw some reports over the last couple of weeks that Warner Brothers Discovery took a $9 billion impairment on their linear cable channels. At the same time, Paramount Global took a $6 billion charge on its cable channels, which was related to the Skydance deal. And so you see all these traditional media outlets taking a hit on their cable channels. And at the same time, these streaming platforms, whether it's YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, even the Netflix of the world, I mean, they're doing so much better. And so it's really interesting to me because this is not new information. Like, it's not new that linear cable is dying. It's not new that radio is dying. It's not new that any of these platforms, like the old heads, are losing. Yet it's interesting that people don't pivot, that they don't change their strategy, that they don't understand that people are changing how they consume information and how they watch content. It's really fascinating to me. I mean, the only thing that to me is interesting because of the fragmentation of media is the idea that we are moving back to these like massive cultural experiences. I believe that dangerous, and maybe this is the dangerous idea, that these cultural events are going to be bigger than ever before. The cultural moments are going to be bigger than any other time in history. And you can already see it with what happened with the Olympics in Paris over the last number of weeks. The Paris Olympics just ended, and it was one of the most watched Olympics ever, which makes no sense because of the fragmentation of media and the fact that we're watching things, with so much content than ever before. For some reason, this became like a phenomenon. It became a moment. You saw things come out of there, like incredible memes. People talk about the Australian breakdancer ray gun. You saw the Turkish guy with the pistol. Like, these things became cultural mainstays because of the Olympics. And I think you're going to see more and more of that happen. So the Olympics, the Super Bowl. I mean, this Super Bowl was one of the most watched Super Bowls of all time. You think about Netflix events, or think about what are other like cultural like moments. The World Cup, FIFA. I think the last FIFA World Cup was one of the most watched events ever. And so it's funny, in a world that's fragmented, these cultural moments are going to be increasingly more important. And that's why sports is becoming, I think, the larger sports platforms like the NBA, MLB, maybe not MLB, but NBA, NFL, they're going to become more popular because we're just hunting for these like cultural moments. And so the new world order is here, and I think it's really fascinating. At the same time, this hasn't translated into other industries. I would say, for example, in the retail world, I think if you ask somebody 5 years ago, like, would DTC, direct to consumer, take over? I mean, most people that were in DTC five years ago would say that this is like the way that people are going to shop today. And absolutely, it's made a big impact, and e-commerce is here, and people are buying things off the internet. But for the most part, like, people are still going to the malls. Deepa and I, we took our family yesterday, or a couple days ago. We were in Calgary at Cross Iron Mills, and we were just shocked. We thought the consumer was soft. We thought the consumer, because of rising inflation, because of rising costs, that people had less money, that the economy was slowing down in some way. But the mall was packed. There were so many people shopping. It was incredible. And although direct to consumer obviously had a boom during the pandemic, people still like to shop. People still like to go out, and they still like to go to stores and feel things. And you're seeing a lot of those DTC brands. There have been very few that have made a massive impact. We're still sort of shopping like we used to shop, which is really fascinating. So maybe that's going to take a little bit of time to make a dent. So the old world still exists there. And so there's going to be some industries where there are going to be some old regimes that will still maintain. But I think in the pure play digital spaces, like technology, like media, where it's purely just information, there's nothing tangible, it seems like there's way more disruption in that particular space. It goes back to a interesting insight that I saw from Peter Thiel, who was on Joe Rogan. Yes, I listened to a Joe Rogan podcast with Peter Thiel for 3 hours. Now, Peter Thiel has, for some reason, become a very politically divisive character. If you listen to this podcast, you know that despite Peter Thiel's politics, I'm a big fan of his business takes and his business acumen. If you don't know who Peter Thiel is, he's one of the first founders of PayPal. He's one of the first investors in Facebook, Palantir, and the list goes on. He's been one of the most influential power players in Silicon Valley and beyond. Beyond his politics, not here to debate his politics, okay? But I think what he said on one of the really interesting moments that he said on this Joe Rogan podcast was that actually there has been a great stagnation in terms of our development, technological development over the last number of decades. And many people would think, what do you mean like there's been a great stagnation? Like, aren't things faster than ever before? Like, hasn't there been an incredible amount of technological change? And one of the interesting things that Peter Thiel said, that in the world of bits, in the world of digital, there's been a ton of disruption. If you look at software, if you look at media, and in particular, anything that is pure play digital, there's been a lot of disruption. But if you look at things that are very tangible or not in what he described in atoms, there has not been that much disruption. If you look at infrastructure, if you look at airplanes, if you look at cars, of course you have Tesla and whatnot. But to be honest with you, in the world of atoms, there hasn't been as much disruption. And in fact, there's been relative stagnation in the world of atoms, which is really interesting. And in fact, I was thinking about this comment, and if you got somebody in the 70s or 80s to drive around cities today, it actually might look very similar to what it looks like today in 2024. And it's the idea that in the world of atoms, much hasn't changed, but in the world of digital, it's changed a lot. And so and it makes sense because when you're talking about things that are digital, it's a lot easier to disrupt. It's a lot easier to manipulate software, media. It totally makes sense. And so the level of we talk about, I talk about the level of disruption a ton, and really the disruption has been in the digital world. So anyways, all this to say that the new world order is here. But I think what we should also appreciate is some of those things that actually make us human, the things that actually make us connect. I just spent the last weekend with a number of families. We do this trip every year. We go to the mountains and our kids get together, and it's absolutely incredible. It's amazing. There's like 12 kids, and we all go to the mountains. Every night, all the kids, they all get together. They're playing. The girls are on one side, the guys are on one side. And it's just incredible to see. They're all just playing cards. They're playing board games. They're dressing up. They're listening to music. It's such a throwback. And at the same time, you have all the parents, and we're just talking. We're just, having a drink. We're talking. We're in the pool. And I get the most happiness when I'm in those moments, not only seeing my kids just like play with other kids with no digital, with no devices. Of course, there are some, we put a movie on for them, but for the most part, like there's no digital. The thing that I love the most is hanging out with a group of friends with no phones and just shooting the shit, just having a good time. And what's interesting is that like in a world of digital, where we've built a society where we're constantly trying to be more convenient, we're trying to please people, that actually what brings us the most happiness is when we're not on our phone, when we're not on our devices, when we're with other people and just connecting. And I think to make it all full circle, coming back to the first part of this podcast, part of the reason why I wanted to do this pop-up is that I actually believe that when you're in person and you're with like really cool people and you're listening and learning and talking to each other, that's where you get the best experience. I don't think anybody will go through, if you put any like non-digital experience versus a digital experience and somebody coming out of it, people will always choose and say that the non-digital experience was way better. It was way more fulfilling. It was way funner. It was way more intimate. And so I think that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this tour, because it's really in person. It's connecting with individuals. It's having an incredible, intimate experience. And I just believe that this is coming back. And so, yeah, it's full circle. So although the new world order is here, there's still some elements of the old world that will never die. And that's actually about human beings coming together. So thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. Rate, review, subscribe, whatever you got to do. We're changing up the format of this podcast just a little bit. We're going to be inviting some more guests, some guests that are remote. And I'm really excited about thinking about what the future of this podcast is going to look like as we're sort of in this new studio and still figuring it out. But yeah, I'm so glad that you guys are on this journey with me. We will see you on the next one.